Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of The Doe Show. This is a show put together to support doTERRA wellness advocates on their business journey. It's a place for community, stories, laughter, and some fun, too, from time to time. So today I'm here with Cinda Garst. Cinda, say hello.
It's great to be here.
Awesome. So what I'd like to start out with is talking a little bit about Cinda. Where are you from? What's your rank? Let's get some of the numbers out of the way. I always like to do that first. Chat about how long have you been with doTERRA and kind of, where you're at with things.
Okay. Well, I have been with doTERRA for about 3.5 years and was blessed through some of the stuff with these school oils that we're going to talk about to go gold last year to achieve that rank. To have a team growing here in Central Illinois and kind of moving throughout the country, just moved up to Canada. We're excited about that too.
Awesome. So Cinda is actually on my team. She is one of my leaders, which I'm super blessed for, and also just a dear friend. And I'm super excited. She's done some really cool stuff. So I'm excited to share some of her experiences with you guys and let you see how awesome she really is. So Cinda, before we jump into this, I think it's a little bit important to, it might be part of your story, but tell everybody to include what your background is and that your previous experience. I think that is kind of an interesting part of your story here.
Sure.
So with that, Cinda is going to jump into talking about how she brought essential oils into several different schools in Central Illinois and is actually working with those schools to educate them. They brought oils into a lot of the classrooms. She helped to come up with an educational plan with some of the teachers. And I think she'll give the details, but I think there's like 6 schools that are signed up with wholesale accounts that place orders and all that sort of stuff. So Cinda, everybody's dying to know, how on earth did you do this? Because there's a lot of schools that are keeping oils out completely, and you have schools that are embracing oils.
Right. Okay. So I've seen some of both. So I guess I have to preface this. When Joyce asked me to do this, I was a little uncomfortable going, oh, wow, we're really going to go live with this. And so, but I'm excited to share it because the mission is much more important than being a little worried about sharing. So I started in schools back in 1984. I was realizing as a teacher aide in a special ed room, and now retired from education last year, and just so many years as a substitute, as a teacher's aide, as a social studies teacher, as a special ed teacher, so all kinds of backgrounds. And that's been my passion, to help people. And so at the end of October last year, I tend to have these customer appreciation wellness advocate events at my home the last Sunday of the month. And one of my people on my team came, and she was sharing about, and I can't take credit for this part whatsoever, and it's brilliant, but there's a teacher from another school in the district that was having, there's so much hype now about social and emotional wellness, and she was having a series of events that teachers could go for. They paid her to go, and the school was actually reimbursing them, and they were learning about meditation and yoga, and she was also presenting the oils, and it was brilliant. And so Chate was sitting in my house, and she said, it's really awesome. I've been helping her, and I just placed like $1,000 order for her. And she was really surprised I would do that. And I said, my eyes really shot open, and I said, well, I think she's probably surprised that you would do that for her because you have your own account. She said, I could have placed that on my account. And I said, yeah. And so her eyes got big at that point. And we just started chatting that obviously this was one school of many in Peoria, Illinois, many schools in their district. And she was the Title I person in charge of helping distribute that money. And so she said, I'm friends with a lot of these principals, and I know that this works. So I'm happy to share with them. And of course, then I'm like, well, I would love for you to do that, because she's, not a wellness advocate at that point. She was just a customer, but she was happy to upgrade. And we enrolled several schools. But the key point I want to bring to everyone is she had a great relationship with these principals. This isn't something that you can just I mean, I'm not saying you can't just walk in and do it, but those relationships are super important. These principals of schools are so busy. Their schedules are so intense that, you know, it takes the right time to hit them. And it was almost a perfect storm, as I told Joyce, because they had extra Title I money last year. They were taking out of teachers' retirement, which kind of makes you cringe, but it was just there. And they had to use it. And they had so many computers already. They had so much technology in their buildings. And we have so many social and emotional, especially a lot of these are inner city schools. And they're pretty rough. I've decided I would sub a couple days this year, and I don't know if I'll do that very much. It was totally different than what I remember. And so we went in, and she got the principals on board, and they were pretty much like, well, whatever you think, which is really shocking looking back on it. But we ordered oils like Balance and Wild Orange and Clove because it was cheaper than On Guard, because obviously you want to worry about budget. Peppermint lemon. We ordered some lavender too. We were being a little careful with lavender because sometimes kids with ADHD can get hyper with lavender. And if they already have ADHD in the classroom, we don't need any more excitement. And so, and then it was even cool. Some of the schools got in December, and they ended up getting 4 free frankincense. And so it was just a beautiful way just to bless them. And so we did. So we're all excited. We've got some schools on board, and all of a sudden we get some backlash from the school nurses. And they said, you can't do this. And it was several pages long letter. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe now we're not gonna be able to do this. And the State Board of Illinois says that diffusers aren't allowed in classrooms. So we decided, Chate said, whoever meets with the superintendent first wins. So we got in with her the very next day, and we presented some of the the principals that were excited about using them and had been using them came with, and she said, she listened, she said, the information makes sense to me. If you're willing to send a letter home to the parents and just let them know what we're doing, you know, if we get some backlash, then we'll deal with it later. The main school that had the head nurse located, they never did buy into the oils because they just didn't want to die on that hill, I guess. And so, but a lot of them took part, and they were excited. The letters went home, which obviously I was tremendously shocked when Joyce, you sent me that message last week at 10:20 saying, did you get oils at the Calvin College? And I thought, oh, what person did I miss not enrolling or something? And, you know, I don't know how it went viral, but it did. So that was pretty excited. So all of the schools have made orders, some just initially. A lot of them ordered at the end of the year because they were afraid that it might not get approved for next year, and they wanted to have oils to last for this next year. One of the schools, Noli, who become one of my favorite principals, she's actually got her school on LRP, and she's actually even doing LLV. And so she believes in the oils 150%, and she uses them personally for herself. She is passing them out with parents. She told me last night that she gave one an On Guard spray because they just couldn't get over sickness in their home. And so, you know, she's not afraid to share, although she tells me she's not a salesman and she couldn't build this business. But I'm like, I think you're already doing it. And so she even had a yoga night and had me come in and help and present with that. So that was fun. But she is definitely a walking testimonial. Okay, so she gave me a blend, which we can post in the group later, that a teacher there are a couple different blends that I have teachers using, that this was a teacher that had all students with autism, and it's Balance, Serenity, Clove, On Guard, Copaiba, frankincense, and rosemary. She mixes this all up in kind of a pot, and she distributes it to vials to these teachers, so they have enough oils to make it through the week using this particular recipe. So she's very regiment, she's very particular about her oils, and she's just taken this head on. And so I love that they have they have 15 drops, it makes it through the week. So, but the thing is, I want to let you know, as beautiful as this has been, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. I was wanting to get a quote for her for this today and for something else. And so I went to her school about 3:45. She got called into a meeting. They were having parent-teacher conferences. And so I had to go back at 6:55. So here you're talking, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, a lot of travel time, and then met with her. And then she stayed for another 45 minutes giving me information. But she told me that she believes her first comment, I said, what should I share? And she said, well, I don't know how we made it without the oils. I don't know how we've ever made it without them. I'm like, oh, this is so good. I should be videoing her. Maybe I'll do that. And she said, maybe I would still be teaching had I had the oils. And she just laughed. But she said, the kids, the behaviors are getting better. And I tell you, there's drastic suspensions. This is a K-8 building and hundreds of students, and it is not an easy place to work. And so she said the behaviors are getting better, so they are able to focus on their work more. And that's key. There's no computer that's going to help with that. In fact, there's such a teacher shortage in the area that they're going to even go to having teachers on computers teaching students. So they need things to help keep them focused. And she said it is absolutely worth the money to spend on this. So I love that she's making it a complete priority. She gives oils away as prizes to teachers. And so that is really exciting. So she invited me back. They're having some little meal this afternoon. I really don't have time, but I'm going to make it there because it's so important to just keep that relationship. And she's going to share a couple of recipes on how, as an African American, she is keeping her hair and it is softer. So I need to get those recipes. So we're sharing things back and forth. And at one point, I even had a rollerball class for them early on where I supplied everything, and they picked out oils on like an alarm clock, some of the ones that have been going around, and they had fun mixing. And, and you always think, okay, this business is helping to pay. Well, when I went cold, I had to gift this particular leg to someone. And so when I called doTERRA and I'm like, I didn't get my 5%. And they're like, oh, you just gifted it. You're number 4 in that leg. And I'm like, oh. So there you go. So that's when the rubber meets the road, and you just take a deep breath and you go, what, this is more important than me making what I really thought I was going to make. And there's a greater purpose in sharing these oils. And you know what, sometimes there will be a greater good that comes out of it later for me. I'm just not going to get that instant reward. So, and it was a blessing to go gold. There was no doubt about it. That was super, super exciting. And I look forward to doing more of that. And so there's also a program that in the one school that didn't buy in. And this individual, she uses a different blend, which is totally interesting. All these teachers have researched what they think will work. They use lavender, wild orange, balanced, peppermint, on guard, and lemongrass. And it is also a room completely composed of students with autism. And she feels like that has made night and day. She had an administrator walk into her room and say, what are you doing differently in here? The kids are behaving better. And she shared the oils. So we were all excited thinking this principal would totally support it and get on board because it's the wealthiest school in the district. But being the wealthiest school in the district, they didn't have Title I money. So, or very much of it. And so, but the thing is, while they're not supporting it, my angel did help me get some oils that will get her through part of this year, but they're not denying her being able to do it. So they're kind of closing their eyes and saying, okay, you can do what you want as long as it doesn't affect someone else. And so basically, that's where we have kind of noticed that was my arena, was the life skills area. And so I had people on my team already that were doing that. And so in another building, a wonderful story was that a student was in a partial restraint, a nonverbal student with autism. And the teacher came to help, and she's like, buddy, what's going on today? And he just looked at her, he put his hands up, And he started motioning like that. And she said, "Do you need your oils?" And he nodded his head. And she said, "Okay, let's go get him." He got up, grabbed his shoes, and they went back to the classroom and he put them on. And at that moment, I knew that we had something so powerful that needed to be shared, that we could make an impact, because it's not easy on these students and it's not easy on these teachers either. So if they can at least diffuse, and the teachers are in a better frame of mind, they are going to be better teachers. So it is still a battle to get them in. One of the newest schools I'm working with, because unfortunately, the lady who was in charge of Title I has given up that position, and she has moved on to another school where she is a principal now, and she's trying to get the oils in there, and I think that we're good to go. But their biggest concern was that the diffusers were a fire hazard. So you never know where you are going to come into trouble. And I subbed one day in one of their buildings. It was really rough, and got eaten alive by sixth graders. I hate to even admit that, but it was just crazy. They just were not focused. And but the fire marshals have come in. She's asked. They said that they are absolutely okay, but they leave computers plugged in all night. I'm just floored that they were worried about a diffuser. So I think it's just overcoming the objections and going through. I know someone in the chat asked, what kind of information did we use? We pulled off studies like Dr. McCullough's ADHD. We pulled off things out of the guides, the doTERRA's guides the magazines that they send out. They have articles on schools. We pulled those out. There may have been a couple other articles. So I think people just want to see something in writing. And then once they're willing to, Shatay was great. She took a diffuser and some oils right to the superintendent, who's going to turn down something free. And so she was trying them in her office, and she felt the benefits of it as well. So I think it was a perfect storm, that there was money, which schools don't have a lot of money. The relationship was there. We had earned their trust. I'd been with the district for 10 years. We built programs for life skills students that had never been done before. So we had just already paved uncharted waters. And I was using the oils. I worked with the mainly 18 to 21-year-old life skills students, because if they, didn't have a job or work experience before they left school, they're sitting at home. And so I would get them jobs. And if they would come into my office and go, I just don't want to work today. I'm like, oh no, we have to get out, because jobs don't come a dime a dozen for my population. And so I would get out the passion roller, the motivate roller, and I'd say, get your wrists out, we're putting them on, you are going to work. And so they would do it. And they were over 18, so I didn't need the parents. I'm sure that I pushed the envelope. So let me say that, and this isn't, I guess, going to be that it's always perfect, but if there's a cause that you believe in and that it's right, and you aren't hurting anyone, obviously somebody could have an allergic reaction. But if you know what they're using to clean in those buildings, if you've smelled the perfume and the axe that these boys are wearing, there is no way that our stuff is competing with that. But yes, it could happen. And so we address that. There's a room that the diffusers aren't in, because that student can't handle that. And I know I have a family that their son cannot do anything citrus, and he's on the autism spectrum. So what, we can't deny that somebody could have a reaction, but the blessings to try it so much outweigh that. And if it's just diffusing, some of these classrooms are so big, it would take a lot for it to get into the entire room, because they weren't all using doTERRA. They couldn't completely invest and buy into doTERRA diffusers. So they were getting cheaper ones on Amazon a lot of times. And so they're just not that powerful. So, there was one kid in a school that he stayed home. They sent a note they weren't going to send him. Well, obviously they don't want to keep their kid home forever, but they said they don't like to send him anyway. So it was just another excuse. So people will do whatever, we're always going to have naysayers and people that go against. But in this respect, it's been a beautiful experiment. It's not perfect. It's hard to get into these principals to follow up. They're just, the demands on them are so intense, and they are for the teachers as well. You know, so sometimes they sign up, they do an order, and you just, you know, it takes months to get back in with them. But it is definitely something, you know, some of the teachers have enrolled, so that's exciting. So we're building a community of users. So I'm just excited to be able to share with you guys and our journey, and it's still ongoing. It's not perfect, but for the one school, Glen Oak, it's just a joy to go in there and see what these teachers are doing and how they're in an administrator meeting and they're talking about oils. And so, you know, if I had a small part in that, then, you know, that brings me a lot of joy.
Gosh, Cinda, when you tell your stories like that, and I know you, and I've heard these stories, but boy, it just made my heart swell up to hear the story of the little boy, the boy that was indicating that he needed oils, and so I just want to. So I'm going to summarize and recap what I've heard you say, because I know all the details too. So I'm trying to think about what, you know, because you and I are sharing it in a way because we kind of know, but I want to make sure everybody listening understands sort of the timeline. So it started with that initial school that had come to Chate, and they had placed a big order through that other person. And then Chate realizes, oh, I can place this through my own order. And then you guys realized, well, wait a second, we could get them their own accounts. And then,
well, and Joyce, you know what, you can't, just a little sideline, we had another, you just reminded me, you had another block in the road that the first school signed up as a professional account.
Yes.
And so even though I don't know how many schools there are in our district, but you can only have one professional account per district.
Mm-hmm.
So then we just were like, so then you had another catch in your spirit, and you were like, okay, we did all this, you know, if it goes to one person and they still get the oils, it needs to happen. But then all of a sudden we found out that each school could get their own tax exempt code, and they could have their own wholesale membership. So they weren't getting 35% off, they were getting the regular 25% off. But on the professional account, you have to order $500 every time you order too. So we just realized that they were still getting the perks of it. We were going to support it. So we were going to go ahead and forge ahead. They didn't know that it was 25 versus 35. We didn't need to make it a big deal. It was still working with what we needed to do. So, but there was another roadblock that I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding, because there were schools that were ordering $1,000, $1,500 worth of oils.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh my, did we just lose that? So, okay, commercial over, go ahead.
No, that's good. And this is the kind of details that we want to put out there for those listening, because as they're approaching their schools and considering what the best plan is for, and definitely every school, you're going to want to craft and customize a strategy for that school. And that's what Cinda has done each time. And I just think that's so cool. So back to the timeline. So you crafted your first kind of plan with your first school and got them enrolled. And that was the one that got the professional account, right?
Well, no, they had done it. They were on their own and they had done it.
Okay.
But so they were ordering for the school. Every school has oils, or every teacher has oils and diffusers. But this other woman was having these classes, and that's what she was supporting with the oils. She was ordering all her supplies and the oils that they were giving away and placing places, and helping other teachers, just putting them out there. That's just who she is.
Okay. So then and so some of the schools that you worked with, you just kind of went school by school, partnering with Chate, who had these relationships. And then for each school, you went in and kind of figured out, you know, what kind of Title I money they had. So they had grant money available to them to spend, that they had to spend by the end of the year. And then you went school by school and kind of figured out what were their obstacles. Was there anything they were worried about? What did they want to bring oils into every classroom? Did they only want to do it for our special needs classrooms? Because that's absolutely true, right? Like, I just want to clarify that some schools, you know, one of the schools, like you said, brought in diffusers, and we picked those oils that were the least expensive, but still would do the objectives. And what were there was 3 objectives that you were trying to shoot for these, like choosing your oils.
Right.
It was for attendance, right?
Right, because those that don't know, maybe a school gets paid on those students attending. So if they are not attending, they are losing money every day. So they do want students there, they want them to learn, but we're driven by the dollar. So if a bunch of students miss, they are missing out on hundreds of dollars. And so I don't know if it was this way everywhere in the United States, but they had Christmas programs that were being canceled because of the flu last December.
Mm-hmm.
They were having hundreds of kids out a day in some of these buildings. And so you knew the money, and that was kind of the approach that we took too, was this has the potential to help save you money. Well, no, there's no educator in America that isn't trying to save money at this point in time. So we wanted the immune support, we wanted the social and emotional support, and we wanted the focus.
Okay. So that was the 3 objectives. And so Cinda went into these schools and kind of picked out, based on their budget, based on what they wanted to do and who they were what students they were trying to help, kind of the best plan. The other piece that we haven't really clarified yet is what kind of support did you give once the oils came in? Because you have mentioned that you go into the schools and do follow up, obviously, but there was a handout that you put together that explained what oils the teachers were going to receive, and here are a couple of diffuser blends that you might want to try out, and some suggestions on exactly what to do, like hands-on concrete information. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Right. Well, first, I give you a little credit for helping me pull that together. I'm not the Canva woman of the world. It's not my niche. So I know what I want. I need to get diamonds, so I get personal secretary. Here we go. But yeah, not fun for me, but it's fun for some people. So we went in, and so it was interesting. The one principal that is so excited and still has the loyalty rewards, she called a meeting after school and those teachers that ended up showing up, because she made it optional, and those teachers that ended up showing up were the 20 teachers that got the oils. And boy, there were people mad because they were like, what? So in each except one school said that they had it on their own. In fact, the principal has asthma. She uses Breathe. She loves it. She's like, I got this. So, okay, I'm not going to tread on your waters if you think that you know what you're doing, and that's fine, but I'm here to support if you want it. The other schools, I went in and we did like an after school meeting, and I tried to concise in 20 minutes what they needed to know, which was terribly painful because we know that's not enough. So we had handouts for them, and I'm sure in some schools it's working better than others because we couldn't sustain that relationship to really make sure we were in there. And there were oil people that were teachers that weren't promoting it. So that was interesting to see some of their faces like, oh, I could have shared this with my school. Like, uh-oh. So I think there's some extra support in there because there's oilers in every building, even if they're secretive about it. So, but it was, so we went in, we did those presentations, and, one was a late afternoon before break with one of the schools, and those that have worked with teachers, they're just big kids, and it's like, I don't think anybody's listening. It was just, but I passed around the deep blue, gave them a sample. So you know what, I had their attention at that point. But it's just hard when people are overworked and they're tired, and a lot of them are burned out, to really totally get their attention. But a lot of them, and I think that the special needs teachers are probably some of the ones that gravitate the most to them, to be super honest. But maybe that's just because that's my realm too. But so that was how the education was done. And so I've just periodically tried to check in with the principals, and a lot of them, like I say, got oils. So when they see me, it's kind of like they don't need to see me. So you just have to, they don't need anything yet. So I don't want to bug them. And I've asked Chate, we just recently talked, she's going to, I think, send out emails because, a lot of them I do have relationships with, but a lot of them were hers, and she's not even in the district anymore. So, it'll be something we just have to navigate.
Okay, so you went in, you did the immediate follow-up. You have certain schools that you have a stronger relationship with. You're still going back in and working with them, and building that relationship, still placing orders for some schools and that sort of thing. So, and then dealt with the obstacles, right? Dealt with the objections when they came up. And I think it's really important for everyone to know that they will come up, right? I mean,
Yes.
like you said, and it could be totally random things that you wouldn't even expect. We want to think, oh, well, people are going to just be worried about either the smell or the allergies. But then, like you said, they throw in something else like a fire hazard or, sometimes I think they won't do it just because they assume that the parents are going to throw a fit, that it's like preventative. They're not
Yes.
going to do it because they're worried about backlash when the backlash hasn't even happened yet. So, I guess,
agree.
do you have a message to those out there, wellness advocates just like you, that are working to get them into the schools? I mean, I think you've already kind of, with your stories, shown how amazing it is to get the oils into the schools. So what would you leave them with as far as advice or input on moving forward?
I think you've got to find out who you have that relationship with. If it's your classroom teacher, these gifts diffusers make a wonderful gift to your teacher for Christmas. Build on that and try to get in the door. I know some of them, honestly, the school district that my husband just retired from, they have an absolute rule: no essential oils. And so we're not going to be able to fight that. I do know that one of the rooms did use oils, though, so I'm sure they're not scouring the building completely if people aren't complaining. But the administrator I talked to said, yes, somebody had a diffuser in their room, and two of the other administrators came in and they got a headache. They got a migraine. They said, I can't be around that stuff. So it could be as simple as somebody in leadership's had a bad experience, so nobody's going to do it. And then I realized that possibly, if they say essential oils are okay in schools, then it can be any brand. They could be bringing in Walmart, and we know that's not great. It was interesting when I was talking to Noli last night. She went out and bought cheap oils that were some of the same ones as her regular blend, because she just wanted to see for herself if it was the same. And she said, there's no comparison. So I appreciate the fact that she went ahead and did it. I didn't know she did it, but she did. And so she's a walking, testimonial as far as that goes. So, but I wouldn't hesitate to continue to try and just make those, relationships and have conversations with people. I think if you're sharing with their goal in mind, that this may help with attendance, this may help with better teacher performance because they're happier, student performance. I think they will at least hear you out. I have an appointment. I was hoping I would have it before with the regional director of schools in our county. She said she's messaged me that she has some answers for me, but she would like to get some oils, which tells me she has found out that she has a strictly behavior school that they've just started, and she's actually in charge of it too. And she wanted to use some oils in there, but I have a suspicion that she talked to somebody at the state level and they're saying the allergic factor or something. So I just don't have that information yet. But I think if they open it up to any kind of oil, we know there could be reactions because of the synthetic things in the other oils. So I don't know if they could come out and say, well, we'll take any oils, only doTERRA oils. So, which would be beautiful. But I think that's kind of where it's at. But there's teachers all over that have their diffusers going. They're just being quiet about it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, well, you've given us so much to think about, Cinda, and maybe what we could do to kind of help the cause here is put together a Google Drive folder that has some examples of the different materials that you've used, maybe the educational handout, the listing at least, or photocopies of some of the materials you handed to the superintendent, and anything else we can think of that would be helpful as far as helping us to do this, because those stories that you just shared, even though I know, we all know what a difference these oils can make, but to hear you tell those stories is just it's just filling my heart, first of all. And secondly, it makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I need to get out and start talking to teachers right now. Like, we got to get into because there's so many kids like that. And I know you work with kids that are on the spectrum and kids that, you know, really are special needs, but they're even in the classrooms that aren't necessarily special needs, there's tons of kids that are struggling with focus and immune support and concentration. And I mean, we can make such a difference.
And I love, you know, even on our team, you attract your tribe. And so obviously I have a lot of people on my team that have special needs kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been random. They, you know, come other directions through other people. But, and Joyce, you know, we have one that their son's off of Concerta.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, you know, he's doing a lot of things that we're not going to be able to do in schools, but just having that knowledge that people are having that much success will hopefully just give you confidence to know that it's worth sharing.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely worth sharing, because you don't know who you enroll isn't related to a principal or isn't, you know, there's just, and I think God works in amazing ways. I give him the credit for this. And you know, I just pray he brings across my path who I can help, and it will be a blessing too. And so I, you know, I just throw that out there. Wouldn't be me if I didn't do it. Okay.
Well, what a huge ripple effect you've had already in the Peoria area, and now arming the wellness advocates and the leaders that are on this call right now and going to listen to it in the future, because we are posting this to YouTube and a podcast. So hopefully spreading this message and sharing that Google Drive folder will arm all of us with the confidence and also the tools that we need to get out there and just continue to make a difference. So Cinda, I just want to applaud you. My heart, I feel so grateful and blessed that you're on my team and that I get to watch you up close and personal and see the impact that you're having on the world. But so thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Just going to make sure I don't see any other questions listed here. So with that, folks, I want to thank you for joining us for the Doe Show, and you can continue to click the subscribe button down there to stay in touch with us and keep learning from the amazing leaders in our doTERRA community. There's so much awesome support and leadership that we have to pull from. So Cinda, thanks so much for joining us, and I'll see you soon.
Great. Thank you.